In the first Jurassic Park movie, Jeff Goldblum's character, Dr. Ian Malcolm, questioned the scientists.
Yeah, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they didn't stop to think if they should.
So why the hell am I talking about Jurassic Park, and what does Jeff Goldblum have to do with the NRL? Dr. Malcolm asks a poignant question in the movie, and I'm sure it's one every single NRL coach has asked during their career. Hell, it probably goes through your head where you see that cut-up pass flung into the crowd, or when that chip and chase meekly surrenders possession. Yes, I'm an Eels fan, yes, I remember 1998, and yes, it haunts me just behind 2001. And that question is, why risk it? You can do it, but should you do it? Players that don't conform are eventually cast aside, regardless of how individually brilliant they can be. Chris Sando was gone from the NRL only 4 years after he signed a multi-million-dollar contract. Feliti Mateo spent almost his entire career being known as brilliant but erratic, while Bryce Cartwright could easily have found himself on the same scrap heap. But here's where things diverge, and often why the best players are sometimes the least eye-catching. Let's take our friend Bryce Cartwright. He's known for the audacious flick passes and the ridiculous offloads to absolutely no one, and probably, giving his coach a cardiac arrest, apart from the opposition, and probably is responsible for plenty of either lost hair or grey hairs. He's been the source of frustration for Panthers, Titans and Eels fans for years, and that's despite the fact that he actually had a Blues 18th man jersey at one point. Cartwright is the type of player who asked the Dr. Malcolm question and answered it himself. Or Brad Arthur answered it for him. In 2023, he had his best and most consistent year, and that's because he did less of the fancy stuff and more of the tough stuff. And if you watched my video from last week, wink wink, you'll know that Brad Arthur absolutely loves the tough stuff. And it's what every NRL coach wants. Players who can ask themselves, should I be throwing that pass? Should I be attempting this chip kick? Ask any fan the difference between Billy Slater and Jared Hayne. They'll tell you consistency of performances. Sure, Hayne was freakishly talented, but his worst was a long way from his best, whereas Slater's was about a 7 out of 10. And this brings me to my next point. Why are the best players so boring? We'll get to that in one sec, but if you sign up to my newsletter, which is in the description, you'll get an email every Monday morning giving you an insight into some of these tactics. Back to what you came here for. Just think for a minute about what the likes of Nathan Cleary, Ben Hunt and Daly Cherry Evans do very well. It's all the little things. The long kicks, the pushing up in support, the tough carry instead of the hospital pass. Cleary was unbelievable for that 20-minute period in the grand final, but you won't see too many games like that on his highlight reel. Ben Hunt's arguable crowning glory was his origin-winning try, and it wasn't some brilliant solo effort from 50 metres out. No, it was a charge down on Nathan Cleary that he regathered and scored. That doesn't come about if he's not doing the tough stuff. And just on tough stuff, Ben Hunt was playing hooker in that game, so that shows you how tough he really is. Until recently, you could have thrown Mitchell Moses into that brilliant but erratic category, but in the last couple of years, he's become a much more consistent performer. And that's what I'm getting at. To be a good player, you have to be consistent. And to be consistent, sometimes you need to shackle some of that natural playmaking skill. Otherwise, you end up throwing that pass into row 6 and you have to deal with the Craig Bellamy bake, even if you're up by 20 points. But how do those players actually rein themselves in? Well, let's look at two of them. I've mentioned Moses, but I'm also going to have a look at Shaun Johnson here. They're two incredibly talented ball runners in their younger years who've had to grow into more senior playmakers. Now, Shaun Johnson's the more veteran of the two. He's 33, but 2023 was a really renaissance year for Shaun Johnson. Watching the Warriors, he was far more measured and in very good control of their game plan. He knew when to run, when to kick, when to pass. Sure, he probably wasn't as exciting as he was in 2011 when he was breaking ankles, but he was exactly what the Warriors needed with the rookie coach last year. Now Mitchell Moses is on that path himself. Watching him in 2017, you knew he could win games on his own, but he could also spectacularly implode or completely go missing. 2017 Mitch is a mile away from the 2023 Origin player Mitch. While he still has the speed and audacity to rip teams to shreds, he does it less often than his younger self did. And that has been replaced by a halfback who's become far more consistent across the whole of his game. It's easier for a team to shut down an expansive playmaker who tries every trick in the book than a playmaker who bides their time, breaks down an opponent, and executes when they need to on a consistent basis. And what I'm about to tell you next will set you on a path to understanding this on an even greater level. My brand new one night only live masterclass is on the 26th of March, where we will be looking at the game plan pandemic. So sign up at the link in the description now or scan the QR code that's on screen. Now back to the content. As I've explained, the best playmakers have controlled their expansive playmaking and use it only when necessary. But this isn't the only thing that they have done. In fact, the biggest skill in today's game for halfbacks is one that you see every match and every set, but it's something you probably don't think about a lot. So click this video here to understand why Nathan Cleary is the best at it.